after I got out of college, I started showing in shows and winning awards and that sort of thing, but I wasn't selling any art. So basically what I did is I went back to school and got a degree in education and prepared myself to teach art, so which I did for a few years. But what I didn't understand and what they never taught, and they still do not teach in art schools, is how to make a living at it, how to how to really get some money from the artwork. And so I did a lot of studying. I studied all kinds of books and read and kind of figured out what I needed to do. And I learned, and that's what I was sharing in my book for other artists.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. I am, again, your host, Mike Hoffman, and today I am joined by artist and author, Tricia Leonard. Tricia, how are you today?
I'm doing fine.
I appreciate you coming on. So Tricia has been an artist for all of her life. We're going to kind of talk about how that's evolved, as well as an author of a recent book called The Artist's Map to Success, which can be found on Amazon. So clearly your life is all revolved around art. I assume that was a passion of yours when you were a child?
Absolutely. Starting at about 3 years old, I think. That's when I scribbled all over the walls in my parents' house.
Yeah, I'm sure that went over well.
Yeah, but, well, they didn't give me any trouble because my mother had already been painting murals in my nursery. So I thought that's what you did, is draw on walls.
That's okay. Listen, you respected your mom. You followed what your mom did. She was drawing on the walls, so you did as well. That's funny. So it was a hobby of yours when you were growing up, but did you know from an early age that that's how you wanted to kind of build your life and your career in that direction?
Yes. Actually, the only thing I ever wanted to be was an artist. And I went to UCLA and majored in art. When I went away to college, a lot of my friends wanted to major in art too, and their parents all said, no, you can't do that. But my dad didn't say that. He said, you can major in anything you want. But he said, just remember, you have to earn a living after you get done. So that I kept that in mind all the time.
Yeah. Was that a concern for you, though? You kept it in your mind, but was that like, okay, I love this, I want to do it, but am I going to be able to support myself?
Well, yeah, after I got out of college, I started showing in shows and winning awards and that sort of thing, but I wasn't selling any art. So basically what I did is I went back to school and got a degree in education and prepared myself to teach art, so which I did for a few years. But what I didn't understand and what they never taught, and they still do not teach in art schools, is how to make a living at it, how to really get some money from the artwork. And so I did a lot of studying. I studied all kinds of books and read and kind of figured out what I needed to do. And I learned, and that's what I was sharing in my book for other artists to do. It's
an important thing. You hear people say this all the time. When college is great to teach you the skill that you want to do, but it doesn't necessarily teach you how to apply that skill if you're not going to work for someone else. Whether it's business or, some kind of, therapist. I have family people that have gone into some kind of like occupational therapy or things like that and have opened their own practice. But that was a struggle, not because they didn't have the skill set to do the occupational therapy, but because at no point in time did anyone ever teach them this is how you run a business.
That's right. That's very right. And one of the things that I've learned, through my studies, is that it's not just about doing the artwork, it's also about marketing the artwork. And that's what you don't get when you go to art school. And that's what I'm trying to teach people through my book and through mentoring and through consulting with other artists.
Yeah. So how would you describe your art? I mean, is there a variety? Is it one general style? Kind of talk about it. If someone, if you had to give a 30-second, this is me as an artist, what would you say?
Okay, I would say that I work in acrylics and watercolor, and I prefer to do a lot of abstract artwork, but I can also do more realistic things. And I've done a whole series of water media batiks that I have been showing. So, yeah, but mostly just painting.
Has it always been now? But once you graduated, and forgetting the teacher aspect of what you're doing, is when you're now doing your art, is it for the purpose of a business, meaning to eventually sell it, or is it for the enjoyment of it, or is it a combination of both?
Well, yeah, of course I enjoy doing it, but everything I make is for sale.
Right.
I don't give it away. I don't keep it for myself. It's always, if somebody is interested in a piece of artwork, it is for sale. So I'm an artist who sells. That's what I want to do.
Do you? Is it a simply matter of you paint something and then you see who's interested in it, or do you actually sometimes talk to people? They give you, they hire you to to paint something for them, and after your discussions with them, you create based upon what they're looking for.
Well, and all of the above, really. But I show in galleries. I show in co-op galleries. I show in for-profit galleries. I show in any place I can put my artwork, in restaurants, in coffee shops, in office buildings. I get it out there. And that's one of the things I really try to get my the people that I'm consulting with and through my book to understand that you need to have it out there. It's not going to sell if it's in your studio. You've got to get it out there in the world. And so that's one of my big things that I always tell people is you have to have your artwork in 10 different places at all times. So if you're in a show and the show shuts down, you got to find another place to put that artwork.
And I got to believe there's so many shows, but there's probably this many artists. So it's probably not that easy. And I imagine for you, who've probably built a reputation, obviously, over all this time, it's probably much easier for you to get into a show than, say, someone starting out. Is that a fair statement?
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think if the person is willing to hit the pavement and look for places to show, they're going to find them. There are lots of places to show art in the community I live in, which is not a huge community. I live in Reno, Nevada, but we have lots of places to show art here. And so you just need to get out there and figure it out. There's also places online, which is a whole different aspect of the art world. Not only do I show things in person, but I put things on websites and on online galleries and that sort of thing. So there's always places, if you're looking for places to put art, you can find it. I taught a class just recently to a group of students about selling their art, and we sat down and just brainstormed all of the places that you could put art in our community. And with talking about it, all of us knew different places, and we came up with a long list.
How does one, when I say one, I mean you as the seller or as the combination with the gallery, determine a sales price of a piece of art? I mean, because I imagine art is it's arbitrary, not arbitrary, it's very personal. So what I might think, oh my God, I need to have this, someone else will be like, oh my God, that is so not my style, as opposed to other things that are easier to quantify, whether it's a piece of clothing or it's something, like that, where there are comparables. Anything you're going to paint, there's no comparable because it is a one of a kind. So How is value determined?
Well, I know there are methods where you can take a measurement of a piece of artwork and determine how much it goes for based on the size. And that's kind of a real popular way. But I'll tell you the way I do it is I show in galleries, and I always look at what the other artists are selling their artwork for in the gallery, and try to get in that range, because you want to be not more expensive than everybody else, or a lot more expensive, or a lot cheaper. You want to be in the range. And so that's what I do. I do a comparison. I just do study it, look and see what other people are selling for and what they're actually people are buying the artwork for. And I use that as my guide. But the thing about your own individual artwork, you have to be very consistent in being the same price for the same size piece.
Sure.
you can't say, I like this one better than that one, so I'm going to charge a lot more for this one than that one.
Yeah.
You don't
Right.
you don't make that decision. You let the buyer decide, but you do have kind of a consistent price that you pay, that you charge, for the artwork.
And so when you say sizes, what's the small and what's the large size range of generally your artwork? Like, what does it go from?
Well,
like, what's the smallest thing you would do?
Okay, the smallest is 2 inches by 3 inches, if you can believe. Wow. Tiny little mini things. And I sell those for $55 each. People buy them at that price. And so that's the price I set. And people use them for hostess gifts and things like that. So that's the cheapest and the smallest. But I also make things as large as 36 by 48,
Okay.
Yeah, so those would be much more. Those would be in the $1,000 range for my work. That's what I kind of set the price at. And once you set a price, then you see, is somebody going to buy it at that? And that kind of gives you more information on, are you putting it at a price that's sellable,
right,
but also that you're getting a good amount of money for the work that you put into it.
Yeah, well, that leads my next point. So I'm sure this varies as well. And let's just stick to the 36 by 48s for a second. How much time does on average, would you think a piece would take you to do a 36 by 48?
About 13 hours.
Okay.
I've actually timed it, and that kind of is the average time. Could be a little bit more, a little bit less, but that's about it.
Okay. So something that's costing $1,000 or whatever, $1,200, that's basically $100 an hour for your time, which for someone with your skill set doesn't seem that bad at all.
Right.
You have a skill that other people don't have. So electricians, plumbers, everyone charges an expensive rate for their time because they have a skill that others don't have.
Right.
Interesting. So how many pieces of art? I mean, every day are you waking up and doing something new, or is it now at this point it's a few days a week or?
Well, no, actually, one of the things I studied was Eric Mazel's books, Fearless Creating, and he says you need to paint every day. And so I took that to heart, and I do. I might not spend a lot of time. I might spend an hour. I might spend 3 hours. 3 hours is kind of topping out on a creativity basis. You get kind of tired after that. But 1 to 3 hours a day, every day. Yep. And then I add on to that with my sales program, saying that you got to sell your work. You also need to spend an hour a day marketing your work, whatever that is.
Yeah. And I would imagine what you said before, going backwards a little bit, I would think that the internet right now and these online galleries or other places to sell have really kind of, I think it's a good thing and a bad thing for you, quite honestly. Because the good thing is obviously you're opening up your art to the world. So you have many more people. But on the flip side, someone in Reno, Nevada now can buy artwork from anywhere in the world and isn't necessarily relegated to the art galleries around there. So do you find it's been good for you or bad for you?
Well, I'll tell you that both. It's both good and bad. It's good because I have a website. People can go on the website and look at it. People can also download my work and just kind of print them out and make prints of them, which that's kind of the bad side, but it's not the original artwork. And one of the things I've really realized in selling art is that you can show on the internet, and I have sold some things through the internet, but for the most part, people want to see it in person. And I'm the same way. I'm looking to buy some artwork from Australia, and I've looked at it online, but I'm thinking, I want to see it in person, and I think that, things look different on a computer than they do when you actually see them in person. So a lot of my artwork gets sold locally because people want to see it.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I know. I remember, we got our new house. We were looking for like prints for the walls and so forth. I remember being at like a gallery, and they're actually, besides the 20 or 30 things that are on the walls, they're handing us all these books. And this goes back 15 years, not even recently. So probably beginning of internet, like, all right, we can get you any of these on consignment, and they're all over, and we're looking at pictures, and it's very hard to gauge from so many perspectives, because you can look at a picture, it's nice, but then you got to say, okay, well, that's the 36 by 48. Right now I'm seeing it on, an 8 by 10. Right. What's it going to look like 7 times, 3 times bigger, 4 times bigger? So it's definitely more of a challenge if you're not seeing something, right in front of you.
Right. But there's a good side to it too, because I have a website, I've had people go on my website, look at my artwork, and then call me and say, can I come and see this piece? I'm interested in buying it, but I'd like to see it. And they'll come over and actually look at it in person and make a decision there. But they've been able to see the thing on my website to begin with, and they kind of know what kinds of things I do. And that leads to the other way of selling artwork is commissions. Yeah. Because sometimes people will want something very specific, but
that's why I said it earlier. Yeah.
And so that's another way of selling.
So obviously you love art. Are you a fan of other artists? Meaning, if you were to walk me around your house right now, do you have a lot of artwork up of others? Because I'm going to guess you don't have a lot of artwork of yours up.
I have a lot of other artwork from other people, and I am a huge fan of other artists. The thing about the art world is it's not a competitive world in a lot of ways, because like you said, everything we do is individual. And so we tend to be fans of our other people's works, and we celebrate when they sell something. We're thrilled. It's great. It's not like you sold and I can't. No, mine's different than yours. Somebody likes yours, that's fine.
Yeah. So, how does framing play into all this? Meaning, you have a piece, obviously, and not all pieces get framed, but a lot get framed. How does that play into the equation? Meaning, if you're going to a gallery, is the framing something that generally someone will do at the end and say, well, this is how I want it framed? Or is it kind of part of your vision how it would get framed for display?
For the most part, I sell my work framed. Basically, I say it's ready to hang on your wall when you buy it from me. And I do a lot of my own framing because I also go to a professional framer from time to time. But I can't afford to get it professionally framed because I turn out too much artwork. I'll do four pieces a month, So I have to do my own framing because of that. But when I have something I think is really, really nice and I'm going to put it in and maybe put it in a competition, I do have a favorite framer that I go to that I have him work with it. But rarely do I sell things unframed. They're mostly ready to go.
Yeah. So when you hear about writers, you often hear about writer's block. Does that same thing exist for you? Like artist block, where you, oh God, I'm looking at this canvas and I just don't even know where to begin?
Yeah, that can happen. Absolutely. And there are lots of techniques, and I put some in my book on how to get over that, how to get past that. You can't one of the things that a lot of times people say is, well, I can't work unless I'm inspired. Well, you can't wait for inspiration to hit you. You've got to sit down and do the work. And so even if you've got artist block, you've got to find some way of stepping into that studio and doing something, putting that piece toward a point where it's going to be finished. And sometimes that can mean simply, gessoing, which is the first layer that you put on a paint. Maybe you just go in there and you say, okay, I'm not feeling really creative right now. I'm going to gesso this piece and get it ready to go. So the next time I come in, I can start on it.
Yeah, interesting. I know I've talked to songwriters before, and you've heard this from interviews over all the years where, someone's sleeping in the middle of the night and wakes up and just a lyric or a melody's in their head and they quickly have to get up and grab their guitar or a notepad. Do you ever wake up like, oh my God, I have an idea or I have a vision of something, and it's like you just can't wait to start actually putting pen to paper or brush to paper, brush to canvas?
I like my sleep. So I stay in bed. But right now I have something in my head. I can tell you that things come into my head, and I have something in my head right now that I'm dying to get started on and put onto canvas. So it kind of runs around your head, until you actually do it. Yeah.
Does it become harder because you've done this now for so long and you've created probably hundreds of pieces? Is it hard to find original ideas, or if you know an abstract, because you mentioned abstracts, and abstracts can be, whatever you want it to be. If you find out, if you've noticed that a certain abstract is selling pretty quickly because people like it, not that you're recreating that same one, are you kind of trying to stay in that same family or something similar because there seems to be a general interest in it?
No, actually, people look at my artwork and they say, I know your art. I saw your art over there and I knew it was yours right away. So there's something in the piece that speaks from me. I don't have to try to do that. It's kind of like your signature. When you write your signature, it's your signature. Nobody else can really do it. And you maybe don't do it exactly the same every time, but there's something in there that speaks that it is yours.
Yes.
And so I would say, that's kind of part of the deal. But as far as recreating something I've done before, I couldn't recreate something if I tried. Everything I do is totally, unique. It's not the same piece over and over again at all.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's one thing. I talk to writers, I talk to musicians, and I think of all the what I'll call the creatives. I'll put you all in one bucket. I'll call you all creatives. Of all the creatives, I really am most impressed with artists because I had to be the worst artist in art classes growing up. That to me, music day was fine, gym was fine. When you had this art, I dreaded, and not because I didn't like it. It was just because I was so bad at it. I mean, I couldn't draw. I couldn't do ceramics. The one story I think I've said on here before is, fifth grade, we had to make a pottery clay thing of a food. We had to do the plate, and we work on it. We'd go back, we'd work on it. It was the last day, and I had nothing, so I took just a block, and I made it a brownie. Like, basically put on a plate, and then I quickly had to paint the plate, and I was running out of time, so the brownie became blue, the same color of the plate, so I turned in, and my family still jokes about this 4 years later, I turned in a blue brownie. And I just didn't have, certain people have a talent, some people are more coordinated, some people are athletes, some people can sing. That was did not have one bit of talent when it came to this kind of art.
That's interesting. Well, yeah. I teach art and I teach drawing, and I've taught people, because one of the problems that people a lot of time happens to people is that they can't recreate something, as it looks in reality. And so I can teach that. You can teach people to draw. I mean, It's like learning to ride a bike. Yeah. And once you learn it, you've got it. So I do drawing classes that way, but I also teach acrylic, abstract acrylic classes. And that gets around the inability to draw. You can be a little more free in the abstract. So I like teaching that because I think it opens it up.
There's a few lessons from my art classes that I remember. And the one was, and I'm sure this is like drawing 101, and it was like, all right, you're going to draw a street on the canvas. All right, well, basically, you got to start with 2 lines here. And they have to go kind of like diagonally to meet at a point, and that's your illusion of the road being farther away. And that's like actually one thing I ever remember learning that is like stuck with me literally 45 years later is I can draw a road because I'm basically going to draw a cone, and I'm going to put little lines in it for lines in the middle of the road. That's my one thing I could do that I've learned from my art classes.
Yeah. But most of the people I work with through my book and all are artists, and they can do things. They can do abstract or they can do realistic things. Yeah. So, but I'm working with them to go a little bit further and learn how to monetize. A little bit
further. I think a lot further than me.
Yeah.
If you identified your target audience, there would be your target audience. There then would be a bunch of people, and then like 5 miles down the road would be me, because you don't want to waste your time with someone like me, because I am a lost soul when it comes to this stuff.
Oh, no.
But that's why I appreciate it so much, because when I see something that I can't do, or I'll tell you this really fast. There's this TikToker that comes up on my feed all the time, and what she does is she goes in New York City outside of theaters, when the cast comes out to meet them afterwards, and what she does is she has made a picture of the person. And every time,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, did you draw that? And they're in awe of it. And so many times the person in the show, she's not giving it to them. It's for her collection and they autograph it for her. So many times the stars of these shows have said, oh my God, can I take a picture of that? Like they're so in awe of it. And when you look at it, it's like them. And that to me is such a talent that you could just, I can look at a picture of you and I can draw you that is so far and away, because if you told me to draw you right now, you'd basically be a circle head. I'd be able to check mark for a nose, and I couldn't even begin to figure it out. And then this is so spot on. So to me, that talent that you all have is just so far out of my realm, and I just am so impressed by it.
Well, they call it talent, but a lot of it's practice, you know.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I've been doing this, like I said, since I was 3 years old. And,
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Yeah. So I always encourage people to stay with it. You know,
Yeah.
if you're going to start it, stay with it. So.
Yeah. And it helps that you love it so much, because obviously to do this for so long and spend so much time on it, you don't probably think of it as a job. You think of it as like you're making money from something you love to do.
Yeah.
And that makes it so great. So is there one gallery in the world that you'd love to have your stuff that you haven't had any success, or you basically kind of got your work where you want to get it?
Well, I have galleries here in Reno. What I'm looking to do into the future, and this is one of the things I encourage my artists to do, is go beyond that and go to Scottsdale, Arizona, and get in a gallery there. That's my next goal. I haven't been in that area, and I'm approaching galleries right now to try to do that.
Yeah.
So, but that's part of the job of what I'm, showing in my book is you've got to go out there and figure out what your next step is. And you've got to go out and be strong enough to approach these people and put your stuff out there and say, here I am. Can we talk? Is this something you could help me with? And anyway, but that's a lot of times that's hard for artists, because like you said, you think it's wonderful, this art ability that we have. But a lot of times that art ability means that they're very introverted too. I mean, we work as an artist, we work alone in our studios by ourselves. And to get out there into the public and present your work is a lot of times a big step that artists have to take. And that's hard for them because it's not natural. And to get out there and say, I'm an artist and this is what I do, that's the first step in my book, claiming that you are an artist, and a lot of times people don't. They'll say, well, I'm an accountant, but in my spare time, I kind of like to play around with paints. They don't say I'm an artist.
Correct.
And I think that's a good first step.
Right. Interesting. So I assume you've gone to several museums and like art museums. That's probably like one of your favorite things to do is go look at art museums. What's your favorite museum?
Well, my favorite museum is the one I'm a docent for. It's the Nevada Museum of Art. And it's the only museum in the state of Nevada, only art museum, certified art museum. And I give tours there. And that's another way that I kind of put myself out there and approach people.
Is there a museum that you haven't been to, an art museum that you would love to? It's on your bucket list.
Oh yeah, the one in Bilbao in Spain. That's on my bucket list, definitely. I got very close. I was in Barcelona this year, but to get to Bilbao takes a little bit more.
It's not around the corner, huh?
It's not around the corner.
So the book's called The Art's Map to Success. It is available on Amazon.
Right.
And what is your website for people to follow you, or Instagram, or any other handles you have?
Yes, my website is www.triciastudio.com. It's very easy. Tricia, Tricia, studio.com.
Okay, and are you on any other, same thing? You're on Instagram as well, I was told? Is that correct?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook.
Awesome.
I'm in there's the Artist Co-op Gallery of Reno also, that I'm on that site because I'm in that gallery. Yeah.
Great. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, it's fascinating stuff. I like talking to people that are, different than me, and artists are about as different as they can get. And it's really good to hear that. And I really admire what you do. And I wish you nothing but continued success.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you for
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.